They called him Billy the Kid, a name that would echo through the history of the Wild West. Born as Henry McCarty in 1859, some say in New York City, others believe in an Irish slum in the American West. His early life was marked by hardship. His father was gone before Billy could even remember his face, and his mother, struggling to survive, moved them to the harsh and dusty lands of New Mexico. Life there was unforgiving. Violence, lawlessness, and survival of the fittest shaped the young boy's mind. By the age of 15, he was left alone after his mother died of tuberculosis. With no family, no money, and no guidance, Billy turned to the streets. First, it was small thefts to feed himself. But soon he discovered something that would change. His destiny, his unmatched skill with a gun. They said he could draw and fire in the blink of an eye. Charming, quick-witted, and dangerously fast, Billy became both loved and feared. It was only a matter of time before this boy would become the most wanted outlaw in America. Billy's path to becoming an outlaw truly began in 1877, when he was just 17 years old. It started over something small, a heated argument with a local blacksmith named Frank Windy Cahill in Arizona. Words were exchanged, tempers flared, and Frank attacked Billy, throwing him to the ground. In a moment of panic and self-defense, Billy pulled out his revolver and fired. The shot was fatal. That single bullet changed everything. Now Billy was no longer just a petty thief. He was a wanted man. Knowing the law would never side with a poor orphan boy, he fled Arizona on horseback, disappearing into the rugged lands of New Mexico. But instead of hiding, Billy found himself drawn deeper into the violent world of the frontier. The more he ran, the more his reputation grew. A teenage gunfighter. Quick with a smile, but quicker with a bullet. In 1878, Billy the Kid found himself caught in the middle of one of the most violent conflicts in New Mexico's history, the Lincoln County War. It wasn't just a street fight. It was a bloody feud between two rival business factions, each backed by hired gunmen. Billy sided with the Regulators, a group of young cowboys seeking revenge for the murder of their leader, John Tunstall, a rancher who had treated Billy like family. Driven by loyalty and a thirst for justice, Billy and the Regulators launched a campaign of ambushes and gunfights against their enemies. Towns became battlegrounds, and Billy's skill with a revolver made him both feared and admired. Newspapers began to print his name, painting him as either a folk hero or a dangerous outlaw, depending on who was telling the story. By the end of the war, the streets of Lincoln were soaked in blood, and Billy's legend was just beginning. After the Lincoln County War ended, Billy the Kid became one of the most wanted men in the West, with a bounty on his head and sheriffs across New Mexico hunting him. Billy lived on the run. But he wasn't hiding in the shadows. He roamed from town to town, gambling, stealing horses, and getting into trouble. Despite being an outlaw, locals often helped him, charmed by his polite manners and youthful smile. His ability to slip away from the law earned him a reputation as a ghost, always seen, never caught. That all changed when Sheriff Pat Garrett, a former friend turned lawman, made it his mission to bring Billy in. Garrett tracked Billy's movements relentlessly, setting the stage for a deadly game of cat and mouse that would go down in Wild West history. In 1881, Billy the Kid was finally captured by Sheriff Pat Garrett after months on the run. He was taken to Lincoln County Jail and sentenced to hang for the murder of Sheriff William Brady, but Billy wasn't ready to die. On April 28, 1881, in a daring escape, he shot and killed 2 deputies guarding him. He then grabbed a horse, rode out of town in broad daylight, and vanished once again. This escape shocked the entire territory. The newspapers called it the kid's most brazen act yet. For Garrett, the chase wasn't over. He swore he would hunt Billy down, no matter how far he had to go. Just 3 months after his dramatic escape, Billy the Kid was hiding in Fort Sumner, New Mexico. He thought he was safe among friends, living quietly and moving only at night. But Sheriff Pat Garrett had a lead, and on the night of July 14, 1881, he crept into the house where Billy was staying. The room was dark, lit only by a faint moonlight. Billy walked in, unarmed, and asked in Spanish, "¿Quién es?" Who is it? Before he could react, Garrett fired a single shot. The bullet struck Billy in the chest. At just 21 years old, the legend of Billy the Kid came to an end in an instant. Billy the Kid's death marked the end of one of the most infamous outlaws in American history, but it also began the legend. Songs, books, and movies turned him into a symbol of the Wild West, a young man who lived fast, fought hard, and died young. Some claimed he was a hero who stood up against injustice. Others saw him as nothing more than a ruthless killer. Even today, more than a century later, his story continues to spark debates, and some even believe he faked his death and lived under a different name. Whether truth or myth, the name Billy the Kid will forever ride through the dust and wind of history.